There is a question that gets asked constantly in gun stores, on forums, in comment sections, and at ranges across the country. What do the people who actually know actually buy? Not the influencers, not the reviewers who get free gear shipped to their door, not the guys who built their entire personality around a particular platform and will defend it until they die. The people who have been in situations where their equipment either worked or it did not. The people who have trained under conditions that most civilians will never experience and will never need to experience. The people who, when they came home, walked into their own house and started thinking about it differently. Veterans. And the answer is not what most people expect. It is not the most expensive option. It is not the most tactical-looking setup. It is not the gun that gets the most coverage on YouTube or the light that every sponsored shooter seems to have clipped to their rail. It is not the AR configuration that wins 3 gun matches or the pistol with the highest round count per magazine. What veterans actually buy for home defense is built around a completely different set of priorities than what the civilian market tends to push. And understanding those priorities, understanding why a person who has carried a weapon in a combat zone makes completely different choices when they are trying to protect their family in a suburban house at 2 in the morning, that is what this documentary is about. We are going to go through the whole picture: the firearms, the optics, the lights, the ammunition, the storage, the layout decisions, the mindset behind all of it. Because none of these things exist in isolation. A veteran does not walk into a gun store and say, "Give me the best home defense gun." They think about the entire system. They think about the scenario. They think about failure points. That is the difference. And it starts with a concept that most civilian buyers have never heard of. Threat assessment before purchase. Before a veteran buys anything, they assess the threat. This sounds obvious. It is not actually how most people shop for home defense gear. Most people shop based on what they have seen, what they have read, what someone on the internet told them was the best option. They start with the product and work backward to justify the purchase. Veterans, particularly those with infantry, special operations, or law enforcement backgrounds, start with the environment. They ask, what am I actually defending against? In what structure? With what layout? With how many people in the house? What are the walls made of? Where do the kids sleep? What is the nearest neighbor's distance? What is the lighting condition at night inside this specific building? Those questions determine the gear, not the other way around. A retired Army Ranger living in a single-story ranch house with 2 children in the bedrooms at the end of a 12-foot hallway is making completely different calculations than a Marine veteran living alone in a 3rd-floor apartment in a dense urban building. The threat profile is different. The engagement distance is different. The over-penetration concern is different. The noise consideration is different. This is the first thing that separates how veterans think about home defense from how the broader market thinks about it. It is contextual, it is environmental, it is specific. And once you understand that framework, every purchase decision that follows starts to make a lot more sense. The shotgun conversation. Let us start with the most controversial choice, because it is also the most common one among veterans who have thought carefully about home defense. A lot of them buy shotguns, not as their only option, not because they think the shotgun is superior to everything else in every situation. But when you talk to veterans, particularly Army and Marine infantry veterans, people who have cleared buildings, who understand what close quarters engagements actually look like and what they feel like, a significant number of them have a pump-action or semi-automatic shotgun staged somewhere in their home. The Mossberg 500 and the Mossberg 5.9 come up constantly. The Remington 870 still comes up, though less than it used to. The Benelli M4 comes up among people who have a larger budget and want a semi-automatic option that has been proven in military service. Because the M4 has been used by U.S. forces since 1999 and has an exceptionally strong record for reliability. Why shotguns? The first reason is terminal performance at close range. Inside a home, most defensive engagements occur within 15 feet. At those distances, 0.0 buckshot, which fires 9 pellets of approximately .33 caliber each, delivers a level of immediate incapacitation that is difficult to match with any other platform. The physics of a shotgun at close range are not subtle. The second reason is the sound, not the bang. The sound of racking a pump-action shotgun. Veterans with security or law enforcement backgrounds will sometimes argue that the audible indication that a homeowner is armed and prepared is itself a defensive tool. Whether that deters an intruder in any given situation is unknowable, but it is a real consideration. The third reason is over-penetration management. Standard 00 buckshot does penetrate drywall, multiple layers of it. This is a real concern in any home with family members in adjacent rooms, but Federal's Flight Control 00 buckshot, a load specifically designed with a wad that controls pellet spread, dramatically changes the penetration dynamics compared to older loads. Veterans who specify ammunition are recommending Flight Control or similar engineered loads, not generic big box store buckshot. The fourth reason is simplicity under stress. A pump-action shotgun has very few operational controls. Under adrenaline, in the dark, half asleep, with your heart rate at 180 beats per minute. Simple is survivable. The gross motor skill of racking a pump requires no fine motor precision. That matters. The training argument. The best home defense firearm is the one you have trained with extensively, recently. This gets repeated so often in veteran communities that it almost sounds like a cliché. It is not a cliché. It is the single most operationally significant factor in whether a firearm helps or hurts in a defensive scenario. A veteran who has put 10,000 rounds through a particular pistol, who has trained malfunction clearances until they happen automatically, who has done force-on-force drills and low-light training and retention shooting from a clinch position, that veteran is better armed with a basic Glock 19 than a person who bought a $3,000 custom 1911, shot it twice at a range, and stored it in a bedside drawer. The gear is downstream of the training, always. This is why veterans who transition out of the military so frequently end up recommending training before hardware. Take a low-light shooting course. Take a carbine fundamentals course. Take a defensive handgun course from a legitimate instructor. Not an online video, not a forum post. A course where you are receiving live instruction and feedback on your actual performance with your actual weapon. When you have done that, the gear conversation becomes much clearer because you now understand what your limitations are and what the weapon's limitations are in the conditions you are actually likely to face. The pistol choices. For veterans who choose a handgun as their primary home defense weapon, and many do, particularly those living in apartments or smaller spaces, the choices are notably consistent. The Glock 17 and Glock 19 dominate. This should surprise exactly nobody. The Glock 17 has been a NATO standard sidearm. The 19 has been carried by more special operations personnel than almost any other pistol in history. They are not exciting. They are not beautiful. They work in sand. They work in mud. They work when they have been neglected and when they have been used hard. The trigger is consistent, the reset is predictable, and the manual of arms is simple enough that you can ingrain it through repetition until it is completely automatic. The Sig Sauer P320 has picked up significant traction since it was adopted as the U.S. military's M17 and M18 service pistol in 2017. Veterans who carried it in service and had positive experiences with it have brought that familiarity home. The modularity of the P320, the ability to swap grip modules and slide assemblies, is a genuine practical benefit, allowing the gun to be configured for different hand sizes within the same household. The Heckler & Koch Vi P9 comes up frequently among veterans with SOCOM backgrounds. The VP9 has an exceptionally good stock trigger for a striker-fired polymer pistol, feeds reliably from a wide variety of ammunition, and its grip texture is aggressive without being uncomfortable for extended use. What you will notice about all of these choices is that they are not boutique. They are not custom. They are service-grade, high-reliability platforms with proven track records. Veterans almost universally gravitate toward things that work rather than things that impress. Magazine capacity matters too. A standard Glock 17 holds 17 rounds. A Glock 19 holds 15. In a home defense scenario involving multiple intruders or stress-affected accuracy, those rounds are meaningful insurance. The rifle conversation. Some veterans advocate strongly for an AR pattern rifle as a home defense option. Others argue equally strongly that a rifle has no place in most residential scenarios. Both positions have legitimate technical foundations. The case for a 5.56 NATO carbine runs as follows. Modern loads like the 77-grain Mark II 62 or Hornady's 55-grain VMAX fragment aggressively on soft tissue impact and do not penetrate drywall as deeply as many people assume. A fragmentation 5.56 round tends to lose energy rapidly due to yaw and tumbling, while a standard 9mm FMJ, because it does not fragment, punches through multiple walls and retains lethal velocity on the other side. The rifle's stopping power per round is also significantly higher than pistol calibers. The case against maneuverability. Inside a home, around corners, and in hallways, an 18-inch rifle barrel is a liability. You are announcing your position before you have visual on a threat. Someone who has not trained specifically for close quarters, work with a long gun, may be better served by a handgun they can actually control in the tight geometry of their own home. The compromise that comes up frequently is a pistol caliber carbine. The Ruger PC carbine in 9mm, the CZ Scorpion in pistol configuration. For those with the legal standing and the patience for ATF paperwork, a short-barreled rifle with a suppressor changes the home defense calculus significantly. The suppressor question. A suppressor does not make a firearm silent. This is the Hollywood myth. A suppressed 9mm pistol produces roughly 130 decibels. Normal conversation is 60 decibels. A lawnmower is 90. But 130 decibels versus the 160 of an unsuppressed 9mm. That reduction is meaningful in two specific ways. First, hearing preservation. Firing unsuppressed indoors without ear protection, which you will not be wearing at 2 in the morning, can cause immediate permanent hearing loss from a single shot. Noise-induced hearing loss is the most common service-connected disability in the VA system. Veterans who already have it do not want more. Second, disorientation. The concussive blast of an unsuppressed firearm fired indoors is physically disorienting. It affects your ability to process information and hear what is happening in the rest of the house. A suppressor keeps you more functional after the shot. Owning a suppressor requires an NFA registration, a $200 tax stamp, and ATF approval. Wait times as of 2024 have ranged from 8 months to over a year. Among veterans who have gone through the process, the consensus is nearly uniform. It is worth it. Lighting, the gear category that matters most. Ask veterans who have done any significant low-light training what the single most important accessory on a home defense firearm is, and the answer, with remarkable consistency, is the weapon-mounted light. Not the red dot, not the suppressor, not the upgraded trigger, the light. More than half of all violent crimes occur in low-light conditions. Your home at night has deep shadows, unlit hallways, dark rooms. Before you can make any defensive decision, you have to be able to see what you are responding to. The weapon-mounted light solves two problems simultaneously. It illuminates the threat so you can identify it, and it illuminates your target so you can engage it accurately if necessary. The Surefire X300U is the light that comes up more consistently than any other in veteran home defense discussions. Used by military and law enforcement for over 2 decades, its paddle switch activates with a natural grip, and it is built to a standard that will not fail under recoil or hard use. The Streamlight TLR1HL is the second most consistent recommendation, particularly among veterans who are price-conscious without wanting to compromise on quality. At approximately half the price of the Surefire with comparable lumen output, it represents a genuine value proposition for a piece of gear you need to trust completely. Cloud Defensive's OWL Light has also developed a strong reputation in the special operations community for throw distance and beam quality. One important note: a weapon-mounted light should only illuminate something you are prepared to shoot. You do not point it at every noise you investigate. A handheld light lets you look around without flagging everything with a weapon. The Surefire G2X and the Streamlight ProTac series are the handheld tools veterans reach for. 500-plus lumen tools, not flashlights. Optics on home defense firearms. In the veteran community, there is a clear generational divide on whether a red dot belongs on a home defense pistol. Older veterans favor iron sights, reliable, no battery, indexable fast with enough training. Younger veterans who carried weapons with mounted optics in theater take the opposite position. With proper training, a red dot is faster because it puts the aiming point and the target in the same focal plane. Under stress, when your eyes go naturally to the threat, the dot is already there. The optics veterans recommend most consistently for pistols are the Trijicon RMR and the Holosun 507C. The RMR has a 15-year track record of durability that no other pistol optic can match. It was adopted by special operations units because it survived abuse that smaller optics did not. The Holosun 507C offers competitive quality at a lower price point with solar charging and a shake-awake function that extends battery life significantly. For rifles in a home defense role, the conversation is less divided. Veterans almost universally recommend a quality close-range optic. The EOTech EX-PS3 and the Aimpoint PRO dominate here. The Aimpoint PRO's battery life, measured in years of continuous use on a single battery, means it can be stored ready with zero risk of powering down at a critical moment. Ammunition selection. Veterans are more specific about ammunition than almost any other category of home defense buyer. The principle is consistent. Use what professionals use. Law enforcement agencies spend significant resources testing defensive ammunition, and the loads that major agencies adopt represent a genuine standard built on actual performance data. For 9mm, Federal HST in 124 grain and 147 grain comes up constantly. Speer, Gold Dot, 124 grain plus P is the other dominant recommendation. Both appear most frequently on law enforcement-approved ammunition lists, expand reliably across a wide range of velocities, and penetrate to the FBI's recommended 12 to 18-inch gelatin standard. For shotguns, Federal Flight Control 00 buckshot is the consistent choice. Horn 80 Critical Defense 00 buckshot is the second most recommended. Both use engineered wads that produce more consistent patterns than older designs. For 5.56 rifle ammunition, Hornady 75 grain TAPI, Federal 55 grain bonded JSP, and Black Hills 77 grain MK262 are the loads veterans name. The common thread is controlled fragmentation and reliable feeding from shorter barrels. Do not use FMJ ammunition in a home defense role. Full metal jacket does not expand, does not transfer energy efficiently, penetrates further, and produces a wound channel significantly less effective at stopping a threat. FMJ is for practice. Premium expanding ammunition is for the gun staged for defense, storage, and staging. Veterans who have children in the home are intensely focused on the balance between accessibility and security. The gun locked in a biometric safe across the house may be perfectly secure, but is useless in a true emergency. The gun unsecured in a bedside drawer is immediately accessible, but poses an unacceptable risk to curious children. Neither extreme is acceptable. The Vaultek VT20i is the bedside safe veterans recommend most frequently. Its biometric scanner opens in under a second with a fingerprint. It has a PIN keypad backup, and it is large enough for a standard pistol. For veterans who distrust electronics in a critical role, the Fort Knox original pistol box uses a simplex mechanical lock. No battery, no biometric reader, no electronic failure mode. A practiced hand opens it in under 2 seconds in complete darkness. For staged long guns, rapid access safes from Hornady and Liberty that use RFID wristbands allow a single swipe to open in the dark. Staging position is a tactical decision separate from the safe itself. Most veterans identify a single, centrally accessible location, often the master bedroom, as the primary staging point. The logic is the same as any defensive position. Reach your tool from wherever you are likely to be when you need it, without crossing exposed ground to get there. The mindset component. The gear is meaningful, the training is essential, but neither functions without the right mental framework. The first component is pre-decision. Before you ever face a home defense situation, you need to have already decided what your response protocols are. Where do you go? What do you call? Do you shelter in place or move to consolidate family? Do you have a designated safe room? These decisions cannot be made in real time under adrenaline. They have to be made in advance, rehearsed, and ingrained. The most common tactical recommendation veterans make is shelter in place and call 911. An intruder moving through a dark and unfamiliar house is at a disadvantage. An armed homeowner behind a locked door they know thoroughly with a weapon ready, a light in hand, and law enforcement on the phone. That homeowner has maximized their defensive advantage without unnecessary exposure. Moving through your own house to locate and engage an intruder significantly increases your risk. Unless you have family members in a part of the house you need to reach, the shelter-in-place protocol is almost always the tactically superior choice. The second component is understanding the aftermath. A defensive shooting, even a completely justified one, carries profound consequences beyond the event itself. Legal, psychological. The processes that follow are not the end of the situation. They are the beginning of a different, longer one. This is why many veterans will tell you the most important home defense tool they own is not a gun. It is their exterior lighting, their door reinforcement hardware, their alarm system, their relationship with their neighbors. The layers of deterrence that reduce the probability of ever needing the firearm at all. The gun is the last line. It is not supposed to be the first. The overlooked gear door reinforcement. A standard residential door frame fails against a single determined kick. The deadbolt pulls through the frame. This is a well-documented failure mode exploited routinely in home invasions. Products like Door Armor and the StrikeMaster 2 reinforce weak points with steel plating and longer screws anchored into structural framing rather than drywall-backed jam. Veterans consistently include door reinforcement as a priority purchase that comes before optics, before lights, before upgraded sights. Every second of delay at forced entry is seconds of warning time inside the home. Ballistic armor. A growing number of veterans keep a plate carrier with level 3 or level 4 hard plates accessible at home. Level 3 plus plates that stop 5.56 and 7.62 NATO rounds can be purchased for under $300. A plate carrier adds another $100 to $200. For veterans who take scenario analysis seriously, this is not paranoid. It is systematic medical kit. CAT tourniquets and soft TW tourniquets placed on a limb within 2 minutes of a serious arterial bleed saved lives. The time between calling an ambulance and its arrival is typically 4 to 12 minutes in suburban and rural areas. That gap is lethal without immediate bleeding control. Veterans stage medical kits alongside firearms because a defensive shooting does not necessarily mean only the threat gets hurt. What this all adds up to when you step back from the individual products, a pattern emerges. Veterans who think seriously about home defense are not optimizing for any single variable. They are building a system. They are thinking about failure modes, about the structure they live in, about the people they are protecting, about the sequence of events from the first indication of a threat through the aftermath of a response. They are thinking about what happens when the primary option fails, because things fail. And if you have not thought about that, you have not thought hard enough. The gear that results tends to be reliable over impressive, proven over novel, and appropriate to the specific environment rather than optimized for some imagined ideal scenario. It comes with training behind it because a tool without skill behind it is theater. The most consistent recommendation above every piece of hardware: train. Take a serious defensive shooting course. Take a low light course. Do it with the actual firearm you intend to stage for home defense. Run it until the manual of arms is automatic, then take the course again. The gun in the drawer with the dead battery and the box of FMJ ammunition is not a home defense plan. The flashlight clipped to an optics-free pistol that has not been shot in 3 years is not a home defense plan. The $3,000 custom build that sits in a glass case is definitely not a home defense plan. A home defense plan is a reliable firearm you have trained with extensively, ammunition selected for your specific environment, a light you can operate under stress, storage that balances security with access, a set of pre-made decisions about what you will do and in what order, and the medical capability to address consequences until professional help arrives. That is what veterans are actually buying. That is what it actually looks like. Not what you thought. But now you know.